I do believe that you have to wait until at least January 1st before you take it down.
Got to at least wait till the new year.
Yeah, you got to wait. Yeah, you got to wait until January 1st. I mean, you can take it down January 1st as soon as the new year happens, but I'm kind of a traditionalist in that sense that, don't just start unpacking it right away. You got to live in that Christmas spirit for another week. What do you think?
That's fine. You put all that stuff up or down. You get it down from the attic, put it all out there. You might as well enjoy it for a little while.
Just enjoy it. But yeah, that's the whole thing with me. Like, I mean, if you start right after Halloween, I think your Christmas season is running a little too long, right? I mean, you're running almost 2 months. If you wait until right there when Thanksgiving's over, then you just have basically 1 month of Christmas, So, anyway, so that's a good conversation, though, Coach. But I
didn't mean to go off on that tangent. But
yeah, well, I'd imagine in the next week or so you're going to see lots of Christmas lights, and maybe we'll get some cooler weather to go with it, and we'll start to feel a little bit like Christmas here. But the one thing that we like to say around here is if you're playing football or having practices on the week of Thanksgiving, then something's going right?
Yeah, and we tried to explain that to the guys today, that you go back through all the football that's been played here and everywhere. There's not many teams that get to practice during this week. I've got friends that have coaches that have never even made the playoffs, let alone get to this point, to be able to practice during this week. So it is something special, and you try to make, let the boys know that, it's a special week for them to come through and do this. And even though they're like, oh, we got to get up early for practice and this and that, but what's the alternative? Not to be playing anymore. So, and you go back, and I was talking to the seniors a little bit today on the offensive side. You go back to 2 years ago, we played 1 playoff game. Last year, 3. We've had 3 this year. Those kids through their high school experience have got to play 7 extra high school games, and that's not a lot of people get to say that kind of stuff.
No, it's one of those things where this Friday night when we're broadcasting the game from Memorial Stadium, I'll go through the history of playoffs. So I don't want to give that away tonight, but I've got all that written out, and I can definitely show you that. But yeah, if you just look at this year, though, this week will be the 13th game the Wildcats have played this year, and then if you add in the Kickoff Classic when we went to Union County, it'll be 14 this week. So. We already said this, Coach. There were 70 to 80 teams that started in Class 5A this year. Only 32 of those made the playoffs. After the first week of the playoffs, we were down to 16, and now we're down to 8. So there's only 8 teams that are in Class 5A that are remaining to play any football, and so the Wildcats being one of them. And yeah, you're right. If you go back, and I'll give just a little bit of the preview of what I'm going to talk about Friday night. That you go back to the 89 year, we only had to win 3 games to go to the state championship in 89. So we were in one of those situations where we were down to the Final Four, So that year you can't. I wouldn't say you don't count it, because obviously that team deserved to be in that semifinal game, but because they only had to play 3 games to get to the state championship, it was a little different. When you have to go 5, that takes a little bit more. But, yeah, certainly that 89 team deserves it. They were there. You have to go all the way back to, like, 2009 for it to happen again, and then again in 2017, and then again in 2018 we had a chance. If we hold on and beat Nature Coast in that game in 2018, we go back to the Final Four. And that was a game we felt like we did win, and ended up on the losing end. So, tough. Yeah, it's very tough, Coach, to get into that final situation where you're in the Final 8. This is actually what's considered the region semifinal. I'm sorry, the region final this week. So we started out in the region quarterfinal, then we moved last week to the region semifinal against West Florida, and now we're in the region final, which basically means if we win this week, we're region champions.
Yep, and that's, last year was a little confusing too. There was actually 4 games to get to that game, because the Arnold game, obviously that one, they didn't come over for their reasons. But, last year's team, they had the opportunity, and I tried to tell these guys, you guys have had this your second opportunity, so we need to get it done this year. You need to know what it feels like to get that, to get to that extra step. So we put our game plan in today and got ready to to play a good Wacola team.
Yeah, so let's talk about it a little bit. Yeah, so West Florida, this is the second time in the past 5 years that we've had a chance to play West Florida. The Jaguars coming over here from Pensacola, and I tell you what, two totally different teams from 4 years ago to this past Friday night. That game back in 2017 was 48-28, and I remember the halftime of that game was pretty close. And then Josh Haygood and some of the running backs, and we had a huge second half in that game against West Florida over there, and basically won that game going away 48-28. Well, neither team on Friday night had any chance to get anywhere near 48 points. I mean, the defenses showed up, Coach.
No, they both showed up. They both played really well. We went down that first series and scored, and I was like, okay. And then I think we were done at that point.
Fool's goal.
As far as offense goes. But we were able, obviously, to get that in there, which was a big help, big boost for us. But our defense all night long, maybe except for 2 missed tackles on that one run that they scored, really played outstanding the whole game. And I know we can get into talk about the guys who played and this and that, but it was, to be a good defense, you got to know your run fits, you got to trust each other, know how to line up, and play hard and fast all around. And we had 11 guys, 12 guys that came out, a 12th guy that came in every once in a while, 12th, 13th guy that came in. They all played as hard as they could play the whole game. It was fun to watch, but nerve-wracking at the same time, keeping that game as close as it was.
Well, and it really started out where it was going to look completely different, right? I mean, so the Wildcats go down. We scored. Jamarian Baker scores on a 9-yard touchdown. And that was after a good return by DeHaven Clark on the opening kickoff. Got us good field position to start. We hit a couple of plays. I think we ran 4 or 5 plays. We score a touchdown. Baker goes in. It's 7-0. Well, I think we had a punt in between there, and then the next thing you know, Carlos Jefferson picks one off and takes it back for 22 yards, takes it back to the house for a pick 6. And so before you can really blink, it's 13-0, and the Cats are on top. So I'm sure a lot of people at that moment were thinking, man, we might just run away with this.
you definitely feel better than I did later in the third and fourth quarter.
We talked about it before the game. West Florida came into the game averaging 30.09 points per game. The Wildcats a little bit better than that at 33.6 points per game. And I tell you, if you had a Vegas odds maker on this thing and you could have taken the under, it would have worked out for you pretty well.
It worked out real good. And they were, as far as them, that might have been the best 3 interior defensive linemen, the way they played it, that I think we've seen it, especially as a group, best defensive line as a group that we've seen this year. And it showed. They made us work for everything we got.
Well, let's talk about the game itself and how it played out. You already know the Wildcats scored early to make it 13-0. West Florida had a few opportunities. They had several opportunities in that first half of play and even into the third quarter where they were in the red zone. And I got to tell you, our defense just played so tough. We held them to a field goal. It was 13-3. And, Coach, you didn't know this, but I made a note of it during the game, and I'll come back to it right now. That field goal they kicked to make it 13-3 was with 10:10 to go in the second quarter. After that field goal, for the next 2 quarters and a half, there was not a score. Nobody scored until late in the game when they, like you said, they broke a couple tackles and got that touchdown. And that wasn't, I wouldn't call that a garbage touchdown. It wasn't a garbage touchdown. The guy deserved it, but that was a fluke because our guys we didn't lose tackles like that all night long. So it is what it is. But 10:10 to go in the second quarter is when they kicked the field goal to make it 13-3, and nobody scored until later on in the second half when they kicked another field goal to make it 13-6. Or I'm sorry, when they scored the touchdown to make it 13-10.
And when it comes to that, out of all the stuff that giving people credit for playing this, that, and the other, really the punt team deserves some because they flipped the field a few times. Jamil gets it, but it's everybody else that's on that team. Jamil, who honestly doesn't really practice punting at all. He just goes out. He just goes out there and just kicks it. But he did a great job that night.
Oh, we actually said that we've talked about this. Jamil He did get his 10th interception of the year the other night, but Jamil also, for this team, has contributed so much from a special teams perspective with that punting job, because it's not just this West Florida game. I mean, all year long, and you can tell that, you know, Jamil's not going to be a professional punter when he grows up, but he does an outstanding job, and he does flip the field at times when you don't even expect it. You know, there's sometimes that he'll kick a line drive punt, and then we have good coverage. You know, The other night they caught one. DeHaven Clark was right there to tackle him. You know, and that was when we were pinned deep too. Yeah, absolutely, and it ended up being, you know, it got it across the 50-yard line back on their side of the field. So, and that same team, honestly, we went back and looked. We only had one longer play, but the fake punt was our second longest play of the night, and we used it early. Yeah. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just felt that was the time. And it worked. Obviously, it worked out. But did you think about coming back to it at any point? No, because we were a little, you know, I think we were about on our 40 there. That's, to me, kind of the you get much farther down there, you're taking a real risk. Field position just dictated that would be a good time to do it, to me. And nobody knew it was coming, so even coaches on the sideline didn't know that one. Well, when you go back and look at the game, Coach, Bryce, number 45, Kaz, who most people would not even, if you saw him, wouldn't believe he's just a sophomore out there playing high school football. He had a fumble recovery earlier in the game. Carlos Jefferson had the interception. Later in the game, Ronnie Ellis had an interception, and Jamil Jones, as I mentioned, got his 10th interception the other night. So overall, 4 turnovers for that Wildcat defense against a West Florida team. And so when you think about games that come down to the wire, games that are a 3-point game at the end, the Wildcats end up winning 13-10 against West Florida, a team that was just like the Wildcats, you know, a 2-loss team coming in, or I'm sorry, a 1-loss team coming in, now a 2-loss team. But, you know, for a win like that to happen, you got to look back at some of the big plays that happened during that game, and none bigger than those 4 key turnovers from the defensive side. Yeah, I mean, they go at it, and we were looking at it. You know, you got to give some credit where it's due. The DBs have had 22 interceptions this year. We figured that out before we went on the air. But, yeah, there's big plays, and, you know, a lot of people like seeing the points up on the board and this and that. But, you know, I told the guys, as long as when the last horn blows, as long as we have one more, we're going to be happy, no matter if it's 3-0 or 50-0 or whatever. But we had more points than they did, and we're practicing this week, and that was the goal for the week. Yeah, the whole big thing is you want to win the game, right? So it doesn't matter if it's 21-20, 13-10, or 50-49. You want to win the game. But a lot of people, you know, when I talk to people throughout the weekend, you know, that you talk to that might have listened to the game or they were at the game, and they'll say, man, what a great game. And, you know, you go back and look at it as a coach, it was a great game that we ended up winning, right? But there were some things that you would look at and say, man, we should have done that better. Oh, right? Offensively, we were not good. It was, and, you know, every team seems to have a letdown, and hopefully that was ours on the offensive side. And, you know, we watched film and critiqued and tried to fix some things today that we need to get better for this week. And I think those guys will come back and respond this week. Yeah, this is what I was telling somebody else, you know, that they said, hey, we barely won 13-10 this week. Are we going to be able to win next week? And I said, listen, every game takes on its own character. Every game takes on, you know, that game's over, okay? That was a war between 2 really good defensive fronts. Our defense, I feel like our defense was a more complete defense than the West Florida's defense, but their front was incredible. You know, the front wall that they had, doing it with 4 guys and then bringing up a couple, you know. That number 25. I don't know if we blocked him all night. Yeah, I mean, he was good. Yeah, he was a good player. They had some really good players. And sometimes you have to tip your cap and say, you know, I know our offense wasn't doing the things that you wanted them to accomplish the other night, but sometimes you have to tip your cap and say, you know, every step that we took, you had 2 guys there, you know, so good on you. You know, they did their homework too. And I think that they, you know, regardless of whether the same kids were there or not, I don't think West Florida wanted to lose to us for the second time in 4 or 5 years, you know, and put them out of the playoffs. So they wanted to win that game, and it was a well-played football game. I know that, we didn't have near the number of penalties this past week that we did before. So I know you'd like to cut out still some of the penalties that the Wildcats incurred, but overall it was a well-played football game.
It was, and, yeah, the penalties, there was less than last week. I guess that's better. It's hard to talk about them because we talk about it day in and day out with these guys, and we seem to be the ones that get caught with stuff. And it's, some of them are effort plays, and it's kind of bam plays where it happens quick. And some of them, we got some guys that just make some bad plays that cost us, and we've tried to explain that to them, and it's frustrating on our part.
Yeah, we talked about this a minute ago, and you mentioned it there. So Carlos Jefferson, he had a pick six the other night. That gave him 3 interceptions on the year. Jamil Jones got his 10th interception of the year. I don't remember when the last time we had a double-digit interception guy, but I'm proud of Jamil for what he's been able to accomplish. Ronnie Ellis with his 5th interception of the year, and then DeHaven Clark has 3, and then some people may forget that Mekhi Mosley had 1. So between all that, you add all that up, that's 22 interceptions on the year. That's a ton of takeaways.
And you think of, honestly, even go back to the Ed White game, how many did we hit right in our hands? We could have had a few more.
Well, Carlos, I know he was kicking himself because he had at least 2 that I can remember.
Toby thought he was going to score too.
Toby's would have been a pick 6, no doubt. But yeah, so when you go back and add all that up, so that's 22 on the takeaways from a interception perspective. Now, if you add in the fumbles that we've taken, let's just say that we've got 30 takeaways. We haven't turned the ball over near that many times this year, so our plus factor on turnovers has been incredible this year. And I don't know if that's something you guys track as a defensive unit, but
we put it on there. To me, the interceptions is the one. Fumble recovery is kind of right place, right time as long as people are going. But we have, on our side of the ball, we have done a lot better job of taking care of the ball. We had it was a lot of people said, why did they call that pass incomplete? It was a backwards pass. We threw it backwards.
Oh, I called that on the radio that it was a backward pass. And the fans were upset because I think they felt like they were calling it a fumble, and it is a fumble. Yeah. When you throw the rule in whatever level of football you're playing is if the quarterback throws the ball backwards, whether that's an underhanded throw or whether it's an overhanded throw, if the ball goes backwards from where it leaves the quarterback's hands to where the guy's catching it, then it's a live ball if it's not caught on the other end. And I saw it from the get-go because there was some action that happened once the ball was touched. Then people thought that they might have called the other thing.
I was fighting for incomplete. Now people might have saw me doing that, but I was trying to, just to get that call.
Well, that's the only way you were going to get it. Yeah.
And that's the thing that's frustrating as a coach is we honestly throw that every day. We throw that every day, kind of in our pregame kind of stuff that we do, pre-practice warm-up stuff. And we talk about every day that can never be forward or can never be backwards, can never be backwards, and
it's backwards.
It's backwards.
Well, those are things that happen, but yeah, that was a turnover that we gave away. I don't think we had any others. Was that the only one?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, so overall in that turnover battle, there used to be stats, Coach. A long time ago when you were watching, college football, there used to be these stats that they would pull out, and you'd be like, wow. So it would be something to the effect of, if Florida State blocks a punt in a game, they've won, 50 out of 51 times. When they block a punt, they win. Their winning percentage goes way up. So obviously as a team, if you're turning the other team over and you end up in the plus category, the percentage of winning games when you have the bulk of the turnovers goes up, right? That's a given.
Yeah, you have the ball more. You got more chances to put some points on the board.
That's right. And then when you have the fortune to, like Carlos on the play that he made, he started to turn back to the middle of the field and made a good decision to come back to the sideline, and he got all the way to the end zone. When you can turn that turnover into points, it means so much. It's just like in basketball when you turn over a team and then you turn that into a layup on the other end. Those points are just points. They're bonus points basically.
Yeah, and we had a bunch of opportunities this game. Defense put us in a position where we should have put some points on the board, and just didn't work out. They stopped us on 4th and a yard 2 or 3 times.
Now, in a nip and tuck ball game like we had the other night, when you're ahead 13-10 and you got the ball deep in their territory late in the game, a field goal gives you a 16-10 lead, but they can still win with a touchdown and an extra point. Any thought on that field goal late?
That was my thought, honestly. If
they score and kick the field goal, they win. So it doesn't.
So
I was
trying when it was 4th and 1. I mean, obviously, Blake, my son, sitting there wanting to go kick it and wanting to go do it. But I thought if we got a first down right there, that we could probably put the game away.
Right.
And I figured, that I didn't think they were going to be able to drive the ball on us. They really hadn't the whole game. They were going to have to take big shots, and if they scored, they were going to kick field goal or the extra point. And
that's right.
Anyway, so I took the shot to win the game. It didn't work out. If we'd have ran it correctly, we had the first down pretty easy, but didn't work out. But like I said, we're sitting here still practicing this week, and that was the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, I went through those scenarios during the game, decision time. We had a chance. So what I'm going back to is later in the game, about 3 minutes to go, we had a chance. J-Mod makes a big catch down around the 15 to put the Wildcats in business, 1st and 10. And at that point, we're in field goal range because Blake's good from 35, 40 yards, and I know you feel good about that. I don't know how much factor the wind had the other night, though, because it was blowing pretty good. But
yeah, I didn't even – honestly, we didn't even think of that. When the timeout came, we were like, let's get the first down. See if we can put this away, because again, I didn't. Honestly, they really didn't. They put maybe one drive together where they kind of drove the ball a little bit and kicked that field goal. They went maybe from the 30 down. But besides that, I figured they were going to score on a big busted play, and the 3 points really wasn't going to help us.
Well, the only argument for me, if I'm siding on the side of the field goal, the only argument that I would say in that case is, if you do kick the field goal and you make it 16-10, then you force them to score a touchdown. In the other scenario, we don't get the first down, then a field goal ties you. That's the only argument that I could give you. But I agree with you. I would have been in the same spot. I would have gone for a first down all day long.
Especially 4th and less than a yard probably.
If it would have been 14-10
then that'd have been we'd have kicked at that
7-point game for sure. Well, first and foremost, Coach, congratulations. 13-10 over a really good West Florida team. The Wildcats now, after that win, moved to 10-2 on the year. We mentioned it after Ed White last week. Now really 5-0 in district play because Ed White was a district team, and just overall great season. Now, Final 8, we've got another team coming over here, and so one of the things that we wanted to do tonight was bring in another one of the coaching staff and kind of talk to us about what we're going to see with Wakulla.
We'll have to let him talk because they got a couple players that can flat out go.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about Wakulla just for a second. Crawfordville, which is a little bit west, but it's not as far west as those Pensacola teams that we play typically, but Crawfordville, easy for me to say, Crawfordville coming from Wakulla County over here to play us in Baker County this Friday night. A team that I was talking with one of my noted historian friends yesterday, Greg Harrison. He and I spend a lot of time on this historian stuff because Greg knows it. When Greg was a kid, his dad, Bobby Harrison, was the athletic director for years, and so if anything happened around here, Greg knows it. And so the last time that we played Wakulla was in the playoffs going back to the 1996 year, and they beat us in that. They beat us in the first round of the playoffs, and I don't think we've played Wakulla since then. And that's been right at the 25-year mark that I've been on the radio, and so I'm going to bring in defensive coordinator Brock Kennedy to talk a little bit about Wakulla. But listen, Wakulla's 10-2 on the year. I was telling Coach Mays before the game, if you go back and look at the schedules, both of our teams, the Wildcats and the Eagles, Wakulla's the Eagles, so both of our teams lost both of their losses within the first half of the season. So in those first 5 games we lost, both teams are on a 7-game winning streak. Something's got to give, Coach.
Well, I hope it's the Eagles.
Well, something's got to give. They lost to Ed White in the very first game of the year, and then in their 5th game of the year, they lost to FSU High School over in Tallahassee. Both of those games fairly close. I think Ed White beat them a little bit more than the FSU team did. Our losses, we obviously know, very close losses. We had at least one of the 2 losses we know we should have won that game. The other loss was one of those that could have gone either way down the stretch, with Vieira. But both teams on a seven in a row streak, and both teams, playing well. So, Coach, you've had a chance now to look at the things that Wakulla does offensively. Talk to us about them and what we're going to see this week.
Like I was telling Coach earlier this morning actually this weekend, and then as he and I were sitting in the office this morning, I even told the kids, I think outside of the Bowls team we played last year, I think this is the most complete team we've seen over the last 2 seasons. They're physical up front on the offensive line. They got a quarterback that doesn't make very many mistakes, and he'll make some plays too. As I think his football awareness, or IQ, if that's what you want to call it, it seems to be pretty good.
Coach's son.
Coach's son. There you go.
They have
Coach's son.
They at least should know. They at least know the game.
At least, yeah. At least.
They have a number 2 that they put him in the backfield and they'll put him in slot. They do a lot with him. He's to me, he's the biggest threat. We got to try to find a way to take him, limit him. He's going to get his at some point. He's that type of player, but we just got to limit the damage he's able to do.
Yeah, he's averaged almost 200 yards a game.
Wow.
And he plays everywhere. I mean, we have to know where he's at every snap.
Well, talk to us about their balance. I mean, are they run heavy? They're gonna throw the ball?
I think they are more than content with controlling the game with the ground game. But they're capable of throwing it, and they'll get in some different type formations. They'll go some empty sets, and then all of a sudden, they're under center wing T style. So they're pretty, multiple as far as formation goes. But they definitely have some out of certain formations from plays they are very favorable of. So we're going to take those away and make them beat us with something else.
Well, if you ever Coach Brock Kennedy, defensive coordinator for the Wildcats, here talking with us, and if you ever see a team run the wing T, if they run it right, it's one of the prettiest things that you'll see in football, right?
I'm a fan. I love ground and pound football.
Well, Coach Mays is shaking his head, but I'm telling you, Coach, when a wing T is run the right way and you don't know who's got the ball or you don't know what to expect on who's got the ball, it can be a beautiful thing. I watched. The reason I say that, going back to that 96 year, so 96 we went and played Wakulla in the first round. We lost that. Well, the next season was 97, and the Wildcats did not make the playoffs. So my second year of doing the radio for the Wildcats was that year. Well, since we didn't have playoffs to do, we went, Bobby Hart was the voice of the Wildcats at that time, and we went to broadcast all of the Lake Butler playoff games that year. And Union County was in a stretch where they won 3 state championships in a row, and they 50-something games in a row. They were like the Miami. They won 50-something games in a row. Either way, I don't know if it was 50. It was a lot. They won a lot of games in a row. But we went and did all their state playoff games, and so they won the state championship that year. And you know what Coach Robbie Pruitt and that Union County offense ran? The wing T to perfection. And let me tell you, there were times they had the fullback. They'd have a fullback in the game. They'd have the slot guys in there, and there would be guys running every which way. And then out of nowhere, Andrew Zhao would drop back to throw a deep ball. And so they just ran it perfectly. And so I remember seeing a team that was that good and able to run that wing T to somewhat what I call perfection and win some games was nice. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the spread. I like doing things with the offense just like that. But that wing T is something to see.
Okay. We'll see if Florida hires a wing T guy. If you'll be saying the same thing.
You're not going to see it at any. You're not going to see it at any level of college.
No, high school is the place you can get away with it. And it's I spent a lot of time watching that kind of football just because Brandon went and played for Army. And you see a lot of the same kind of stuff with them. It's just they're happy with 3.5 yards, and then break something off when you're falling asleep. So, listen, if you're successful at it, good for you. I mean, I think Union runs a lot of it now, and they're 11-12-0 right now. We've talked to Andrew over there, and I think they have a really good chance running that to get back to what you were just talking about.
Well, and what really matters at the end of the day is the players, right? Because that Union County team had a Division I Alabama quarterback, Andrew Zhao. They had Benny Alexander. They called him Benny and the Jets. He ended up playing corner for Florida. You know, they had Phillip Weeks and Adrian Weeks, and one of them went to Auburn, and then they had Gerard Warren on the defensive line. Big money, went and played Cleveland Browns. I mean, so if you got players, you can make any type of offense work, right? I mean, but that
players can make you look good.
Oh, yeah. So I remember that state championship game that year, though. Lake Butler, they used to play in the old Daytona Beach Municipal Stadium, if you can remember that one, down there. And Andrew Zhao and that Union County team, they played Frostproof in the state championship game that year. And Frostproof had a running back by the name of Travis Henry. Well, Travis Henry that night had the chance to pass Emmitt Smith's state rushing record in the state of Florida if he could get like 140 yards against Union County. Well, he got 340-something yards against Union County, which nobody had done all year long, but they lost 67-30 to Union County that night. So that wing T offense scored 67 points. So, I mean, they gave up the state record to Travis Henry that night, who ended up being an NFL running back, but they won by 37 points. You know, so it's just crazy, right?
Yep.
I love the one-word answers that Coach Mays gives.
I mean, I think I remember seeing the score. I wasn't up here at that point. I didn't know.
I gave a 2-minute story.
You could have told me. I mean, back then, you could have told me Union County won. I couldn't have told you where that was at.
Well, no, I mean, that's unless I was there, I wouldn't know either. You know, that's the thing. Unless I was there and got to see it, I wouldn't know. But
I just want to get off the wing T topic.
The point I was making there was anything can be successful if you got guys.
Absolutely,
right? And
absolutely.
Yeah, you got guys.
It's I mean, I played Coco a bunch down there, and John Wilkerson at Coco, he was a big wing T guy, and he had a ton of success with it. But what did he have? Guys.
Guys,
you know,
yeah. The old saying, the Jimmies and the Joes are better than the X's and the O's. But here's the thing: if you can coach them, even if you don't necessarily have the guys, then you can still be successul, right? You might not win a state championship, but you can still be successful.
Yep.
And we've seen that over the years. You know, there's been years like I got to tell you, the 2017 year, when you go back and look at the athletes we had on that football team that year and what some of them have gone on to do, namely some of the offensive linemen, then Josh Haygood, what he's done playing baseball, you know, at another level, and I'm sure there were other kids on that team as well. But I mean, just, you know, you go back and look at what some of those kids do. We had players, you know.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, that we don't know that story for this group of kids just yet, but we've got players right now. You know, the skill guys that we have are as good of skill guys as we've had in years, you know, and it's been fun to watch this year for sure.
No, you know, the defensive skill guys we have will, and you're going to miss everybody, but those four guys together have started. This is their third year starting together, and then it shows, like you said, with 22 interceptions. So, you know, those guys obviously will be missed next year. But like we were talking about today, I hope we have 3 games left in them.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to see it. And if you go back over the course of 3 years now, and you tell me how many tackles Camilo and Toby have had coming from that linebacker spot, how many? I mean, it's an enormous number. I mean,
and especially the year Camilo's put together.
He hit the receiver the other night coming across the middle on the pass play, and even though the guy caught the ball,
right,
he made a point that he wouldn't want to do that again, right? I mean,
yeah. The only thing I was upset at is it gave up a first down. Because I hear, you know, folks were congratulating. I said, yeah, except for we gave up the first down.
Yeah, and you're right, but
no.
You expect with that, with the hit that he put on the receiver, you expected the ball was going to trickle out, and it just never did. So the kid made a good play.
No, I was impressed that he was able to hang on to it. But
probably because he landed on his shoulders and the ball just fell straight on his chest. He could hold on to it. But I mean, yeah, it's a big hit. It's been all over Twitter.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't just hit that receiver on that play. He blasted a couple at the line of scrimmage too.
DeHaven might have taken a big shot that play too.
Yeah, I think DeHaven.
Camilo took out both of them. If you look at it, DeHaven's on the bottom of that too.
Nice game DeHaven had the other night. You know, he made some good plays, had a good kickoff return. That was a surprise to me. Normally I see J-Mod on one side and Cam on the other, and we kind of decoyed them into kicking DeHaven. Is that kind of what happened?
No, he's kind of been there. He's kind of been in that spot all year. They just kicked
a little shorter kick.
The two guys that we have at pooch kick, Mackay and DeHaven in that area, both of those are good guys that can return a ball too.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, DeHaven had a 95-yard interception return against Bishop Kenny.
Kenny.
And he was our first player this year that came on the radio with us. So DeHaven's a special guy. I talked to DeHaven and Jamil before the game the other night, and I told Jamil it was a good night to get that 10th interception, and he did. So that was good. 22 picks on the year, though. I don't know. I mean, we don't have – in the old days, Coach, we used to get the programs on Friday nights, and in the programs, the record book was there.
Have the record.
It was always there, and it would tell you, you know, who had this, who had that. Well, somewhere along the way, you know, somebody lost track of that, and we don't have it anymore.
Right.
But it would be really good to know where that ranks. You know, 22 picks for the year. That's a good number.
That's a large number.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you factor in, like you were saying earlier, the fumble recoveries. That I think the 17 year we were averaging like 2.7 turnovers a game. So I mean, obviously that led to that success, and I bet we're not far off this year.
Well, if you just play that out, that's 30 for the regular season,
right.
Basically 27 for the regular season, and then into the playoffs. Yeah, so probably very close, right? Well, let's talk about some logistics, Coach. A 7 o'clock kickoff this Friday night. We get the fortune, being the number 1 seed in Region 1, we get the good fortune of playing at home again. So we'll have a 7 o'clock kick. Wakulla coming from the Central Time Zone, so they'll get that benefit of the other hour going back home. But 7 o'clock kick, if you're a Booster Club member, they'll have those tickets available at Farm Bureau. You want to stop by there and get those from the Booster Club, or before the game Friday night down at the Booster Tent. Surely you can get your tickets there. I know I talked to Katie Kennedy today. If you're a stadium reserve seat section in the middle, on 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Friday afternoon, Katie will be down at the stadium, and you can go down there at 4 o'clock, beginning at 4 o'clock, and get them. I don't want everybody to show up right at 4. And
yeah, she's got stuff going on this week with her family and everybody too, and that was just easier on her to take care of it that way, and that's we want to take care of her.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. So everybody, don't bombard Katie at 4 o'clock, but if you're a reserve seat section person and you want to get your tickets beginning at 4 o'clock Friday afternoon.
Yeah, she'll probably sell them throughout the whole time. So
that's right. So then the other thing is for general admission, obviously at a 7 o'clock game, if you line up at 5:30 outside the stadium, we'll have general admission seats, but you can also still get the tickets online, Coach.
Yep, gofan.co. You can get them on there. Or like you said, if you want to buy them with cash at the gate, just like we have the last 2 weeks, it'll be the same thing. And you can go on that GoFan and search Baker County, and it pops up right there.
Yeah. So I believe they open the gates at 5:30 for that. So Benny Fish, I just saw that you texted me that. So the people in the middle section, Benny, on Friday afternoon, you can get those tickets, and then you can certainly sell tickets to anyone after that. So that'll be there Friday at 4, and then of course those booster members can get it, and then Booster Club members, hey, turn out early. Let's get a big crowd here. I know it's Thanksgiving week and school's out, but hopefully a lot of students and a lot of folks will still be able to pack the stadium Friday night, because if you just look at the teams on paper, you got a 10-2 Wakulla team coming in. You got a 10-2 Baker County team. Both teams have won 7 games in a row. Both teams played West Florida, which we just played this past Friday night. We beat them by 3. They beat them in overtime. So you take those 2 games, and I know you can't look at scores and competition and everything else that's happened during the year. But if you just look at those factors that I just gave you, same record, we beat the same team by a very low number. We know how physical and how hard that West Florida game was, so I would expect nothing less than this Wakulla game with Baker County to be a good battle all the way to the end.
Yeah, I think it will. They're there's 8 teams left. Every team we play right now is going to be good, and Brock said it a few times the other night. Said, guys, this is playoff football. And then when we were done, you feel like we were in a fight after a game like that too. But you say, hey, that's what the playoffs are supposed to be. And you look at Wakulla coming up here. there's no chumps left in the bracket right now.
No, there's not. So let's talk about some of those other teams that are out there in the bracket, Coach. I know the couple that are different for me than we've seen in the past several years when we've gone deep in the playoffs. Merritt Island's in there now. I think Satellite's.
Yep, that's that game. They're both from Brevard. I know both those teams very well. I know both those coaches very well. I'll be honest. I would like to play the winner of that game.
Okay, and then you've got on the other side of the state, you've got Clearwater and who's
Sebring.
Sebring and Clearwater.
Clearwater appears to be the team, the better team there. Just if you look at record and stuff, but Sebring's played a tougher schedule, so I don't know. I'll be honest. The team I don't think any of us want to see until the end is going to be the winner of Killian and Miami Central.
Yeah, Miami Central with a big win over American Heritage Plantation this past Friday night. So everybody in Baker County knows what American Heritage Plantation can do. So Miami Central, a big win there. It wasn't even close. And then Killian, I don't know who they played, but
Killian, maybe Stranahan. Killian's 12-0. Both those teams are going to be big, fast, strong, everything that you expect from a South Florida team. Now, anyone kind of thinking about how the playoffs work?
Yeah, let's talk about this.
We can't tell you right now. If you look at the brackets will tell you we play the winner of Merritt Island and Satellite, which to me would be the best game for us. It'd be the best game for us to get to the finals. So they take your RPI from the final game. They don't add in any of these playoff games. They take it from the final game, and they will reseed whoever won, basically 1 through 8. Well, right now I think we're sitting at 6. Miami Central and Killian will play each other, Merritt Island Satellite, and it works out. The way I would like it to work out is obviously we need to take care of our business. Mm-hmm. I would like Miami Central to beat Killian to make Merritt Island the number 1. Clearwater's ahead of us in RPI. Let them beat Seabreeze and let us go ahead and win and be number 4, and it'd be us we'd go to Merritt Island. Now, Katie called me today. Could we play at home? Well, we could. Killian has to win. Satellite has to win, and Sebring has to win, and then us, and then we'd play Satellite here. I think that's far-fetched.
That's like probably the 15% scenario, right?
Yeah, I think that's far-fetched. We could still host that, but we were looking at it today, and basically by the time we got done looking at it, basically let us take care of business here because obviously we've got a hard team in front of us. And if we have to go to Killian or have to go somewhere down there, we're going to go play and put our best game down there.
Yeah.
But obviously looking forward, if we could, I would like to play the winner of Merritt Island and Satellite.
And the reason why we're talking about this, folks, is not because we're taking for granted that the Wildcats are going to win this week. We just want to educate folks on what would happen if we were to continue on in the playoffs. And the fact is, back in 2017 when we made the state championship game, it was a bracket, and that bracket was the bracket. And this year it's not the case. We do have a bracket, but they will reseed. And the funny thing is,
if you look at the bracket, it says that we should play the game of Merritt Island and Satellite.
Right.
But I emailed, we were kind of bickering about it back and forth today. I emailed the FHSAA, and he got back to me and said, here's the rule, sent it to me. We reseed per the last game of the season, the RPI, 1 through 4, 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3. And
I'm not real happy about that.
But I'm not a big fan of it either.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. I mean,
I think if you're going to reseed us to the last game you just played, because in my mind you're now saying opponents you just beat aren't worth anything.
Or, well, they're just not factoring it in.
Right.
But, if you're going to reseed, I mean, once you have a bracket for the playoffs, that bracket should be the bracket to go by. There's not a lot of leagues out there that are going to reseed after a certain place.
Well, and then I get back. We talked about it last time. I get back to the AD side of things, looking at travel. Region 1 should play Region 2. I mean, let's just say we have to go play Miami Killian, so we're going to have to go to South Florida 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. Right.
I mean,
just
high school athletic budgets don't account for big trips like that 2 weeks in a row. So, like Brock said, I'm not happy with it either. But hopefully, again, we've got a big task ahead of us. If we can get over that task, we will. We're going to root for Central to win, Merritt Island and Clearwater to win, and let us take the 2.5-hour trip down to Merritt Island. I know those guys. I know that team really well, what to expect, all that kind of stuff. So that'd be better. That would be the better move for us.
And like I said, Wildcat fans, if you're listening into that, it's not because we're looking past this Friday's game that we're talking about that. We just want everybody to know. And once you get into the third round, we were only guaranteed that we would play, if we played 3 rounds here, that we'd have 3 home games. So after this week, there's no guarantee.
Nope.
And like Coach just said, unless a couple of things happen, most likely, in the most likely scenario for the Wildcats, we'll be traveling next week if we were to be fortunate enough to win this week. So.
Yep, and you want to say that, but we do have to look ahead from a planning point of view.
Planning, yes.
We do have to look, okay, if we do win, how's this going to work, I think I told you off the air last year, Baldwin, up until the last minute, couldn't find buses to get them to South Walton last year. Well, we've called and tried to reserve buses and stuff already, just because you have to be prepared for those kind of things.
You got to be prepared. You can't wait till Monday and then try to call around. And, then you're going to end up with a bunch of kids in a bunch of different cars and doing a convoy thing, like on the movie Hoosiers. You remember Hoosiers?
Yeah, or driving to Miami in a yellow bus.
Yeah.
Going 64 miles an hour.
Kids would love that. Kids would love that, right? Yeah, no. All right, well, listen, here's the thing. Wakulla's coming here. We got a chance, and the Wildcats now move to the region final. And what a great opportunity, to have within the last 4 or 5 years, to have 2 region champions. The great opportunity for this Wildcat football team, and I'm excited about it, Coach. And there's nothing better than being there on Friday night, broadcasting the game, seeing 2 really good football teams play, and you get a lot of attention in the area because you're one of a few teams that are left playing, of course, and then hearing the score updates coming from around the way. Tim Hughes from American Recycling, he was keeping us up to date on the Wakulla Rain score this past Friday night. John Meadows over here at Glen Baptist, he was keeping us up to date on the Wakulla Rains game. So that's just fun for me, So we're looking forward to it being fun again this Friday night. So I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck. Now, we talked about their offensive strategy, Coach, against us defensively. I'm sorry, we talked about their defensive strategy. Offensively, what are we?
They play more of a traditional type defense. West Florida played a defensive front that we really haven't seen that much, which did give us some fits. They're going to play your more typical 4-man, 4-down lineman, 2 linebackers. They play a cover 4. To me, they don't truly have that big standout, but they're all good players. After watching West Florida, even Brock came over and was talking about how number 25, just how good of a player he was. And Wakulla might have that guy.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. They play a very sound defense where they run fit well. They do all the things that we talked about our defense did. And this is going to be a game where whoever makes the least mistakes will probably come out on top. They got an explosive player. We've got a couple explosive players. We just missed tackle here or there could be the difference in a game on both sides.
You win the toss this week. Are you taking the football?
I don't know. I have to turn around because the funny thing, last week I asked Brock and Coach Richard, I said, "You guys, what do you want me to do?" And they're like, "Oh," I was like, "I'll take the ball." They were happy with that. So we'll kind of get a feel for we'll kind of get a feel for it. Now, last few times we've taken the ball first, we've gone down and scored pretty quick. So it's hard to get away from that. But you like having the ball coming out the second half too, though.
Yeah, well, sometimes it can make sometimes it can make or break things. But then, the Wildcats, we had a chance to get a big stop against West Florida in the first possession last week, and we did. So you just never know. The flow of the game always changes. But I guess you always want to make a statement. In the last 2 weeks, last week we scored within a minute of the game, and this past week we scored within a minute and a half. So the last 2 weeks, certainly taking the football has worked out well for the Wildcats, for sure.
And we were given the ball this week. We didn't deferred, but we still got the ball first. But I told the captains we wanted the ball anyways because that's what everybody said we wanted. So we'll see.
Well, best of luck, Coach. The Wildcats taking on Wakulla. The Eagles coming over here from Crawfordville County, from Wakulla County, Crawfordville, Florida. I get those mixed up because it's a lot to say when you're talking about Wakulla and Crawfordville.
It's a neat place.
So when you go to Wakulla, Brock, where's, if we look at that proximity-wise, geography, are they close to? Is Wakulla County close to Gadsden County?
Yeah, you'll actually have to go through Gadsden to get there.
Okay.
You're not going to miss a whole lot. They're well known for their sand gnats and good high school football. So
sand gnats and high school football.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of the West Coast out there in Florida, right?
Well, I actually like most of that. Wakulla's just not my favorite place.
Okay.
My last game I ever coached in Swanee was against Wakulla.
Okay.
Felipe Franks is.
That's right. That's right.
Third round of the playoffs.
I almost forgot.
I have not.
Yeah, you haven't, but that's right. Felipe Franks was a Wakulla guy, and thought he was going to LSU. Ended up flipping over to Florida, but yeah, that's right. Live Oak, Jamie Rogers, that team, and that was the second year that y'all were in the region final, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
because the first time you made it down to the Final Four.
Right.
We had some when you guys were coaching over there. We had some nights over here around the fires in the backyard, listening to it on the radio, just living and dying. There was one game, I believe it was the South Sumter game, that came down to a field goal.
That was this last Friday was one of the funnest games I've ever coached, and that South Sumter game is one of the greatest ones.
Came down to a field goal
great.
at the end.
Yeah, that was
they
great.
had a guy named Denzel Washington playing for Swanee, which
reminds me a lot of Cam Smith.
Yeah, and they just it was so fun to watch, and then went over to Swanee for maybe the coldest game in the history of football, and that was against, I want to say it was Gainesville Eastside, that Swanee ended up having to score in the very last minute of the game. Maybe it wasn't Eastside.
While we were there? While I was there?
Yeah, it was playoff game. Playoff game came down. You guys were needing to score at the very end of the game, and the place went.
Leesburg.
Leesburg, that's right. What a football game.
Could have been Eastside.
No, I was thinking, for some reason, their uniforms made me think of, but it was Leesburg. And what a football game. And I tell you, between Swanee and between Milton and Baker County and even your time in Georgia, the amount of playoff games you've gotten to see, and then, Coach, for you, between your time in Brevard County and now here, I mean, you guys are familiar with the playoffs and you love it, right?
We do. That's what you hope that you do it for, and you kind of get the kids geared up and say, "Guys, this is what we do it for."
Where you want to be, right?
Yep.
Well, like Coach said, it's not given to people. Not everyone gets to experience that, and I know, obviously, going back to the Ed White playoff game, that wasn't a very fun game for me. I didn't really enjoy that one. But Friday, I felt like kids were having a lot of fun, playing hard, and I enjoyed it. I had fun coaching. I thought it was a great ball game.
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody did.
Well, you felt like I did at Ed White versus Ed White.
Well, you don't. The thing is, the one thing that probably is the scariest thing ever. I guess when you get to the point where you're coaching or playing not to lose, that's when it's not any fun. I don't think that's what you were doing at all. You want to play to win, right? You want to play to win, and I think that's a great mentality to have. I'm looking forward to this game Friday night for a lot of reasons, but best of luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Go beat Wakulla.
That's, and I'll take some luck to get it done. I mean,
you always take the luck.
Yeah, somebody give me some. I'll tell you one thing I'd like to throw out there, especially some of the guys since I've been around, but any of these players that have played in the past, we're going to be practicing at 8:30 next 3 days.
Yeah.
And these guys got a good word to come out. Not just come out, hey, we got to win. Just something to let these guys know that it's special and how much they're going to miss this.
Yeah.
If we got any of these guys that want to come out and give the kids a quick word after practice, because they, just like you said, how many times have we talked on here when we've had a player here talk about, feels like we started football 3 days ago, and we're in week 13, and it's going to be gone, and have these guys really, tell them that they miss it, because you talk to the Crawford boys that played, last year, they'd love to come out and be a part of this and do it. But so if there's anybody out there that wants to come out and, has some meaningful words to give to these guys, just to help make them, because, as a 15, 17, 16, 18-year-old kid, you live for today and don't even think about it. But they need to take this in and relish these moments, because they're gonna love them forever.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not something that happens every day. And if you're one of those guys and you've got a good story to tell, especially you 2017 state championship guys, come out and talk to them. even as far back as '89, Coach would love to have you out there. I mean, we had some good players back then too.
Yeah, if you're listening, come on out.
Rock Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rock. Oh gosh, Rock would have probably been a freshman on that '89 team. So he
probably
was
sophomore. Because I think he said he graduated '91.
Maybe sophomore. Yeah. Rock's at least 2 years younger than I am. So that would have been about right. But yeah, Rock was on that team that so '89 and '90 we lost to Bowles in the playoffs in '90 or '91. I think maybe both years in a row. But either way. All right, well, Coach, best of luck this Friday night. We'll use the last couple of minutes here just so I can ask Brock a question. This one's been on my mind for at least 2 days, but it's been throughout most of the season. So this past Friday night, so I've changed my entire philosophy on Friday nights at halftime. When we do our show, we used to pick all the games. I used to list out the college games and we'd pick them. Well, I've changed my philosophy now to not pick games. I pick games that are fun to watch for people. Hey, coming up tomorrow, there's going to be some really good games to watch. So this past Friday night, I had Michigan State, Ohio State. I had App State and Troy for local reasons. I had Arkansas, Alabama, and I had Oregon, Utah. What's missing from that list?
Well, good thing is you didn't waste any of your time watching Florida play. So
well, I mean, I'm just saying, what's missing from that list? And why is it that you get a team that, when Steve Spurrier coached the Gators from 1990 to 2003, it was one of the best runs that the coaches had outside of Bobby Bowden, who is one of the greatest coaches to ever live. And then following that, you had Ron Zook, and then you had Urban Meyer, and then, out of that entire time, you win 3 national championships. Why can't Florida, since that time, we're just going back to 2011, why can't Florida, since 2011, have any prosperity with a coach and what we talked about earlier, Jimmy's and Joe's? They've had good players.
Right. I think they've kind of missed out on the quarterback position a few times. You see some of these guys playing at some of the other universities, and then even some that's made it to the professional level, like Brissett and those guys. I mean, I'm not sure. I think with this particular squad, it looks like they've quit.
Going
so
through the motions.
I was a big proponent of, Mullen had won plenty of games and has had some things. But the Missouri thing, I was off. I kept my comments to myself, and it is what it is now.
And then their coach throws it in our face, comes out with a lightsaber.
Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? The man came out as Darth Vader.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've been a Florida Gator fan since the early 1980s. My dad sent me to Gator baseball camp in the early 80s. So I used to go to Joe Arnold's baseball camp. I went down there 3 or 4 summers in a row, and my dad would just leave me for a week with some other guys from here. But my dad had season tickets. We went to Florida games in the mid 80s. There was AstroTurf on the field. It was a whole different place, but it was an unbelievable place to be. And I can't for the life of me figure out why these kids don't want to go there. And now you got kids wanting to bail and recruits that are saying they're not coming. And it's so disappointing to me to see where the state of the program is. It's all. I agree.
Money.
It's all about money.
Well,
it's so disappointing.
The one thing I've heard, and being a good friend of Mike DeGore,
yes,
and I guess they're in the middle of it. He says Florida's facilities don't match what everybody else's does right now.
It's not even close to FSU. Last time I was at FSU.
It's not. They're coming. They're coming.
But listen, being in this business and going with the big recruits that I've had, that facility, that means such a big deal to these kids walking in.
Yeah.
Coming means it should have been there 5 years ago.
No, that's right. It should have been.
Yeah.
And probably if you asked Dan Mullen and he was being honest with you, he'd probably tell you that's.
I'm sure he'd be real honest with you now.
I'm sure he would. But, the truth is, I mean, to get guys to come now is different than getting guys to come in the mid-'90s.
Yes.
It's a whole different thing, and you've got to appeal to guys in a different way.
Well, it's a different type of kid.
Especially with the name, image, and likeness out there now.
The world is a lot smaller than it used to, too. You can look at Oregon now compared to back when you're talking about no one saw what all they have. Now they can put all that stuff out there, social media, Twitter.
Yeah.
So kids from around this area, have all kinds of options to look at nowadays.
So
too.
you're saying if I'd have gone to somebody else's baseball camp, I might have liked it even more, right?
You could have.
Could have.
Yep.
Very possible. But I fell in love with it, and it makes me mad that other people don't, you know. But either way, I'm still going to be a Gator, Brock.
They'll be back.
Man, it's tough times. Tough times. Coach, the question I had for you real fast, and John Meadows is going to kick us off the air, but the question I had for you real fast is, can Trevor Lawrence be the guy that the Jaguars think he can be?
That's a tough one. I don't think it's yes or no real quick. I think it's the answer's still going to be out there, or we're still going to have to wait and see. I think, and we've talked about this a little bit, I think if Etienne was in that offense a little bit more to give him that kind of number 2 that we're seeing this week, kind of that guy that can be out of the backfield, run the ball, I think it would have given him a little more options, because the running back they have now, he's more of a downhill type guy. Etienne could have been jet sweep, screen, this kind of guy. That's the kind of stuff that's going to help a young quarterback. And I think he'll take some time, but we'll have to see.
I think it's
hard
point.
to see.
I think that's a good point. I think that'd be interesting to see if Etienne was healthy and able to go. I think that would be
he wouldn't fix everything, but it would take a little pressure just off him.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because you're getting into the latter half of the season for the NFL guys. It's not quite the last few games, but coming up on it, okay? And at that coming up on it stage, I think Jaguar fans would have thought, hey, by the end of this year, you're going to see what we're going to look like heading into next year, and you're going to see this uphill thing going on.
Well, I think Urban's still got to figure it out too, though.
Yeah, every week now you're still on this downhill
and
thing.
And they won 0 last year.
So, well, and they beat the Bills. They beat the Bills a couple weeks ago, and now the Bills have shown that something's wrong there. So maybe that win's not as impressive for the Jaguars now.
So my question now, I asked last week to you before we get kicked off.
Yep.
Cincinnati in?
Cincinnati.
University of Cincinnati.
Now. So you've changed gears out of college.
Well, you kind of jumped around there.
Yeah. I'd say right now, I think the show's tonight, right? So the show's tonight. I'd say right now, I'd have to say they're in. I'd have to say they're in right now.
It's just funny.
Oregon's out.
Funny how it all plays
out. Yeah. Utah killed Oregon the other night. They're out. So and that was one of my games to watch. Yeah. All right, we got to get out of here, Coach. It's been great talking with you, Coach Canady. I appreciate you coming by, and it's been a great night. John Meadows, appreciate Glenn Baptist keeping us on the air on Monday nights, and thanks to Oscar Gray for having us dependable heating and air conditioning. We got a lot more that we can talk about, and next week we'll come back and talk about it after the Wildcats win this Friday. So go Wildcats. 7 o'clock Friday night from Memorial Stadium. We'll be on the air about 6:50 right here on 97.5 WFBB. Go Wildcats.
This is 97.